Welcome to the best gambling show on the internet. This week we have week 5 in the NFL. And listen, it's been crazy with the COVID, lots of injuries this year. So some of these spreads might change a lot during the week. So make sure you put your ear to the ground, you hit that like button, you subscribe, and let's get paid. Let's get to the first game. We got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Chicago Bears. Tampa Bay's -5, and I got Tampa Bay to win in the cover. It's been really simple this year. I tell you to bet Tampa Bay, and I tell you they're going to cover. And what more do I need to say? Did you see Tom Brady's game last week? It was probably the most magical game he's had in quite some time. Someone proved me wrong about that. And then you look at Chicago, and Chicago still has their problems. And one problem I have with Chicago, they really can't run the ball. And that's one thing I think Tampa Bay will be able to do. I think they'll stop the run. I think they'll force Nick Foles to throw it quite a bit. And I just see Tom Brady getting lots of opportunities. Yes, this is a quick Thursday night turnaround, and we should always be wary about Thursday nights. But Tampa Bay's the team we're riding. And if you don't like the points, I think Tampa on the money line at I think it's like -220 is a good bet. Next game, we got the Carolina Panthers at the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta is -3.5. I got Atlanta to win in the cover. And listen, I told you guys I wasn't high on Atlanta this year. It is a disaster. There's no other way to put it. There's bad coaching. There's also tons of injuries. But sometimes you just have to look at the talent of the two teams and say Atlanta's the better team. Carolina played really good last week. The way they beat down Arizona, I think, surprised all of us. I know we had some haters coming on here and saying, Lawson, you don't understand football. Listen, show me your fucking betting slip where you picked Carolina. Show me. It's hindsight bias 101. Credit to Carolina, credit to Matt Rule. I've been right picking Carolina to cover some games, but come on, it's not going to happen this week. But always be cautious throwing money at Atlanta because we've seen what's happened this year. That Cowboys game was one of the most pathetic performances. And last night against Green Bay was just as bad. Next game, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the Kansas City Chiefs. Kansas City is -12.5. I got Las Vegas to cover, Kansas City to win. We are starting to see teams slow down this Chiefs offense a little bit, but I'm not saying that, oh, no, people have figured out Mahomes. There's nothing like that. But it does look like this Chiefs offense is lacking a little bit of rhythm. And Las Vegas does not match up well with the Kansas City Chiefs. But when we think about Las Vegas, they have to get back to the running game. They really have to run that ball well. And I felt like they played pretty good at times against the Bills, but Josh Allen was just better than Carr at the end of the day. But I think Las Vegas runs this football. They burn clock. I could see Kansas City winning by 9 or 10 points. Next game, we got Denver at the New England Patriots. The spread is -10. Some people don't have a line for this. We know there's a lot in flux. I'm going to pick this game assuming Cam Newton plays. I got Denver to cover, New England to win. And I think the fundamentals of this are simple. I think Denver has a good squad overall, but like I said, even when Locke was in the picture, I had questions about the quarterback position, and also this offensive line really hasn't developed for Denver. But this New England team really lacks explosion. They lack targets. We saw the defense play really good last night, but what does this New England team really offer from the offensive side of the football? I believe Cam will play, but COVID's a mystery. It really is a mystery. I know in soccer, I've seen people return after like 5 days. They got 5 days, then they test negative for COVID, then they're back playing. I don't know how that's going to work with Cam Newton, but it's hard for Vegas to obviously put a spread on that. Next game, we got the LA Rams at the Washington football team. The spread is -9 for the LA Rams. I got Washington to cover, Rams to win. I'm one of the few people who believed in the Rams going into this season, and I think they win this game. But I think that Giants game was rather concerning. I really think it was. I watched a good portion of that game, and it was concerning. And this Rams team, you wonder, okay, is this offensive line good enough First of all, the run block against this Washington front seven, and are they good enough to pass block against this Washington pass rush? That's where I think Washington keeps this game close. But the reason why this isn't an upset, the reason why Washington can't do something special, and why you don't want to throw too much money at Washington to cover, is because Dwayne Haskins is a disaster. We saw this week that he's on a short leash, so hopefully Case Keenum or someone else gets in this game for Washington. They damn near could win this game if they had good quarterback play, but they won't. The Rams to win, Washington to cover. Next game, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars at the Houston Texans. The spread is -6.5 for Houston. I got Jacksonville to cover, Houston to win. Houston will win this game. You can bet that. I'll go to the grave, but I think Jacksonville will keep it close. They suffered a big loss, not a big loss, but you have to expect to beat a team like the Bengals if you're Jacksonville. But I think Jacksonville keeps it close, and this Houston team just looks like a little bit of a disaster at this point. But actually, the more I think about it, let me change my pick. Houston to win and to cover. I think Romeo Crennel adds a little bit of energy, a little bit of inspiration. And I felt like when I was watching the Vikings game against the Texans, I felt like Texans probably should have won that. But credit to the Vikings for pulling that out against the Texans. But the Texans are going to be a lot better this week without Bill O'Brien. And one thing a coaching change gives you is energy. It gives you morale. It gives you gusto. And I think that's enough for them to put the hammer down on Jacksonville. Bet Houston to win and to cover. Next game, we got the Buffalo Bills at the Tennessee Titans. It opened at -6.5 with Tennessee favored, which I was surprised. Some people have it like -1 for Buffalo now. So I'm going to just pick who's going to win and lose. I got Tennessee to win, but we have to wait for this COVID. We have to see how it plays out. I just think Buffalo's due for a loss. And one thing I've been telling everyone all year is I want to see how this Buffalo defense does against a very, very physical running football team. They looked pretty good against the Las Vegas Raiders last week, but let's take that with a grain of salt because Las Vegas, I don't think, played too well that game. And so there's not much to say about that with the COVID situation and all the drama that's circulating. I will do a separate video on that this week. Any game that involves COVID on Friday, I'll get in a separate video so we can really dive in. Next game, we got the Arizona Cardinals, very disappointing last week, at the New York Jets. Arizona's -6.5. I got the Jets to cover, Arizona to win, but Arizona's got to show something. They have to be better than what they were last week. Last week was unacceptable. It was trash. It was garbage. It was malarkey. And the thing that disappointed me more, it wasn't the Arizona offense because I'm sure that's where everyone's going to go to. I'm sure everyone's going to pile on Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray. But my problem was with that defense. You can't let Teddy Bridgewater tear you up. Teddy Bridgewater can put up 24 points against you, but you can't let him put into the 30s on you. And we know Carolina's offense has good pieces, but this Arizona defense has to have a little bit of pride. And what better way to recover than getting this Jets offense, getting to play them? I think the Jets keep it close, but Arizona wins late in the fourth quarter. Jets cover, Arizona wins. Next game, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. Anyone want to give credit for that upset pick? At the Pittsburgh Steelers, Pittsburgh's -7. Wow, this is a game that has me thinking all week, and my mind has been going through all the different angles and prognoses. I got Philadelphia to cover. I got Pittsburgh to win, but don't rule out Philadelphia to win this game. And one way to really get at Burger is the pass rush. And I think we've seen Philadelphia's pass rush develop these last 2 weeks. They really looked like they were getting after Joe Burrow, and they completely took over the game in the second half against San Fran. I think Philly keeps it close, but I think Pittsburgh wins it late because Big Ben's just simply playing better football than Carson Wentz. I know everyone has a little grudge against Big Ben nowadays, but I told you he was rejuvenated. He was focused. He's coming back strong, and Pittsburgh's got plenty of rest. I think they win, but Philadelphia covers. Next game, we got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore's -13.5. You know, it's been a good Cinderella story. We hit big with that money pick of Cincinnati last week. but Baltimore wins in the cover. Let's get realistic. And it's not really about Joe Burrow or Joe Mixon at this point. It's more about, do you guys think there's enough dogs? Do you think there's enough legit players on the Cincinnati defense to hold Lamar in check? I don't think so. And when I'm thinking of Baltimore, I'm just thinking of a team that's ready to explode. I'm just thinking of a team that's angry and that's ready to lay up the points. And so when you're looking at this game, I know 13.5 is a lot, especially because we know the Bengals are competitive this year. It's not last year's Bengals. They're actually a serious unit this year, but Baltimore's going to win in the cover. There's just too much damn talent. Next game, we got Miami at the San Francisco 49ers. The spread is -3.5. Some people have it -8. I'm going to go – Jesus, this is a hard one to pick because the spread variations are so much because I'm getting feed from 6 different spreads and all have different spreads. Let's go with I think it's going to end up moving to -6 because I think Jimmy G's going to play. I got San Fran to win in the cover. I think they're going to be very serious about this game, and I think Jimmy G's going to come back. But this is really a wait-and-see approach. And that Miami team, they really should have covered last week. They actually had the ball with a chance to win that game in the fourth quarter, and then they just kind of capitulated and collapsed. And I think San Fran's going to come in with an attitude, with an gusto. And Miami, when you look at this game, even if Jimmy G doesn't play, that's going to lower the spread for you. Now, let me give you my insight on this. So if Jimmy G doesn't play, this spread's probably going to be what? -3, fellas, with San Fran favored. San Fran's just going to run the rock against this Miami front seven. The big weakness of this Miami team is firstly their defensive line and linebacking core, and also their offensive line is fugazi. But I think this Miami front seven will absolutely get capitulated by San Fran's run game. Next game, we got the New York Giants at the Dallas Cowboys. The spread is -9.5. I got Dallas to win in the cover, and I know everyone was excited about what the Giants did last week. They managed to cover. Everyone was riding with the Rams. But I think Dallas needs to get serious. And Mike McCarthy, no one's really talked about him this year. He's kind of flew under the radar. But what the performance he's put forth has just been unacceptable for this Dallas team. Dallas really looked unorganized against the Browns. That's why I think Dallas is going to come in focused, and I think they're going to get back to basics. I think the fundamentals are very simple. Giants can't rush the passer, and I certainly don't think they can stop the run, although they look decent at times against the Rams against the run. But Dallas is just going to pound the living hell out of them. And to exploit Dallas's defense, you have to throw it, and you have to throw it deep, and you have to push it, and you have to have a quarterback who's comfortable throwing against zone. Daniel Jones isn't there yet, guys. Next game, we got the Indianapolis Colts at the Cleveland Browns. Indianapolis is -3. I got Indianapolis to win in the cover, and I haven't been high on Indianapolis this year, and you guys can give me some flack on that. You have to give them credit where it's due. I'm loving what Frank Reich's doing. And Cleveland coming off a big win is going to be a big challenge. But I think the Colts will play a fundamentally sound game. And if Phillip doesn't turn it over, I don't see a way the Colts lose this game. And I don't see Baker throwing the ball around the park like he did last week. I think this Colts defense is very well coached. And I also think they have some playmakers in the secondary who will do some things. Next game, we got the Minnesota Vikings at the Seattle Seahawks. The spread's -7. This is a tough one. I got Seattle to win, but the Minnesota Vikings to cover. And Minnesota has looked better the last 2 weeks, not because the defense has improved. Certainly not. That defense is still very, very bad, and it is very, very vulnerable. But this Minnesota team is starting to run the rock well. And the big thing that helped the Vikings 2 weeks ago was getting Justin Jefferson involved, because you can't just throw at the one receiver Thielen all the time. Now that Jefferson's involved, it's getting a little bit of pressure off Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook better get this ball 25 to 30 times. He's had 2 monster weeks in a row. I see a third monster week in a row. but the Vikings won't have enough to win this game because the Seattle team is serious. The Seattle team, we saw their offense struggle against Miami at times last week, but they still make the big plays. DK Metcalf is still nasty, and the Vikings still have no corners, and the Vikings still can't stop the run. Next game, we got the LA Chargers at the New Orleans Saints on Monday night. New Orleans is -7.5. Wow. I got the Chargers to cover, New Orleans to win. And last week, even with all the injuries, I rode with New Orleans. I still think they win this game, but this Chargers team's competitive. They're nasty. They play good defense. Derwin James is absolutely phenomenal, maybe one of the best defensive players in this league right now. But with that being said, I still think they come up a little bit short. I'm not seeing the gusto on offense. People have been telling me about this LA Chargers run game. I'm not really believing in it when we're looking at the Saints front seven. And the Saints team is focused, and they better have a fire on their ass because you're seeing Tampa Bay get better by the minute. Everyone was ready to celebrate when they saw Tampa Bay losing by a good 20 points against the Chargers last week. But New Orleans needs to be focused, and they need to keep winning games if they want to win this division, or they're going to find themselves in a wild card. New Orleans wins, Chargers cover. Hit the like button, subscribe. This is the best gambling podcast on the internet. We're almost up to 5K subscribers. I think we're arriving there this minute. I want to say thank you guys. More videos coming this week. And due to the COVID complication, I will do individual videos of those games with questionable spreads, because some of those spreads, they just don't have lines right now, 2 games in particular. So I'll make sure I get to those this week. We'll dive into those. Hit the like button, subscribe. Thank you, guys.